Good afternoon. My name is Lama Jigme Gyatso. I'm the non-sectarian Buddhist monk, yogi, healer, and teacher. I'm the guy who unifies or blends the teachings of Lao Tzu and Gautama, of Mahayana and Theravada, as well as Sutra and Tantra. Okay, we're through with that. Let's get down to it. An individual contacted me from India and asked me, what is the deal with these Buddhas? See how close I can get this image to the camera. So it looks like you have a boy Buddha here, and it looks like you have a girl Buddha here. Now the girl Buddha is extremely shorter than the boy Buddha. Why is that? That's either A, because they wanted to get the perspective right. They want to make sure that if you were looking at it head on, you weren't just seeing the back of the woman's head. Or B, that's done out of misogyny and patriarchy. Or C, and this is the least likely, it's a ghastly reference to pedophilia, or what would be considered pedophilia today. My understanding is that in days of yore, people married the girls off right after puberty. So maybe that's a 13-year-old and a fully grown man. Anywho, so that is what we see. We see them in sexual congress, in physical union, forming the the karma mudra, or as we say here in America, doing the hibbity-dibbity. Why do we have that statuary or that image in Buddhist, especially Tantric Buddhist art? There are many reasons. I shall explain these reasons from both the fundamentalist as well as the liberal point of view. We'll start with the fundamentalist point of view. But before I do, a little history. Now, my numbers are going to be off. I have a dodgy memory. But if memory serves correctly, in the 1600s, Tantric Buddhism was brought to Tibet, where it flourished. The king was very receptive. I remember correctly, I may be wrong, it was King Trison Jetson, but I may be completely wrong. Like I said, mnemonics, history, not my thing. Anyway, the king was really receptive and everything was hunky-dory. But there's this little thing called impermanence, and that king eventually died. His successor earned the name Long Dharma, and he basically was an enemy of Buddhism. And he was kind of like the little Buddhist Nero. Just as Nero murdered and tortured Christians wholesale, likewise, King Long Dharma destroyed monasteries and murdered monks and nuns, which is grisly and dark and very, very sad. But history, the tale of human history over the last 10,000 years is replete with many genocidal madmen. Or in this case, I don't know what the word is for killing someone because of not the race, but the belief, but you get the idea. But impermanence is no respecter of persons, and eventually King Long Dharma perished as well. His successor was very keen on the Dharma, and he sponsored the rejuvenation of Buddhism in Tibet. He encouraged Tibetans to make the dangerous journey to India to receive translations and teachings and then bring them back. And he also sent emissaries to India to bring teachers back. Marpa the Translated made many journeys to Bengal, where he learned at the feet of Naropa, and eventually brought the Mahamudra teachings to Tibet. And emissaries brought, invited several times a Bengali prince who became a monk named Sri Jona Dipakara to Tibet. Of course, in Tibet he was known as Atisha because they felt like they could not pronounce his Sanskrit name. Why am I going into history? Why aren't I talking about doinking Buddhas? Bear with me. In America, we had the naughty 19s and the roaring 20s. But after that, we had a depression and then a world war. When people returned from the world war, we had what I like to call neoconservatism. That stuff happened, and in response, we lost our joie de vivre, our playfulness, our courage, our boldness. We were very, very conservative, and that gave birth to the McCarthy era in American history. Likewise, when Buddhism returned to Tibet, or was rejuvenated in Tibet, there was great conservatism. And people had a bad experience at the hands of King Long Dharma. And I'll tell you the truth, the fundamentalism flourishes amongst the conservative. It flourishes amongst the fearful. In fact, I've said numerous times, and I'm speaking from experience because for many years I was fundamentalist, fundamentalists tend to be rooted in fear. They are prone to perfectionism. They tend to be very rigid, and that leads to intolerance, which can lead to various forms of intellectual, emotional, or verbal, or even physical aggression. Wherever you have sincere enthusiasts, the majority tend to be fundamentalists, the minority tend to be liberal. For instance, if you were to talk with a high school physics teacher, he's pretty divorced from the cutting edge of physics 9 times out of 10. And so he has a great deal of certitude about what he teaches. However, you take a PhD on the cutting edge of physics, maybe working at CERN, and he has no certitude. He is very ambiguous and flexible in his comprehension of physics and their tenets. So the price of certitude is a lack of possibility, a lack of flexibility. Let's return to Tibet. During the neoconservative era, when they'd come across arguably erotic pieces of religious art, they would go straight to the metaphor and say, yes, what this is a metaphor from the non-duality of the observed, of the observation and the observer. And that's a lovely metaphor. In fact, I use that particular metaphor in the what's it called? The second set of lesson text that I teach in my second quarter of meditation classes. That's a wonderful way of looking at the sensory body mandala, or the body mandala of the 5 senses. And we'll explore that in a later video. So when dealing with the body mandala, it makes perfect sense to visualize the idea of a male and female Buddha in tantric union, or karma mudra, in your ear to represent the union of sound perception and sound itself, or sight perception and sight itself, or scent perception and scent itself, or taste perception and taste itself, or sensation perception or sensation itself. So that is one meaning, but only one. There are many. Let's look at another. When it comes to erotic Tibetan statuary, the majority are wearing ornaments and clothes. What's unique about Samantabhadra Yabyum is that they are both completely naked. Samantabhadra means all good one in English. Samantha Badri, his consort, also means "oh, good one," but it's a female derivation of the name. And herein lies a really fascinating metaphor. I own many books that are English translations of Tibetan titles. One of them is title is translated into English as Naked Awareness. Now, when I first read that title in a catalog, I was real excited. Ooh, that sounds like Tantra. Ooh, that sounds like doing the hibbity-dibbity. That sounds really exciting. But it turns out naked awareness was a metaphor for being completely vulnerable in our perception of reality, not hiding behind filters or beliefs or preconceptions or defense mechanisms, but being completely vulnerable in our perception of the outside world and in our perception of our inside world, and having a completely vulnerable and honest awareness of our thoughts, our emotions, our sensations, our circumstances, and the people in our life. In many spiritual systems, people try to change the way they feel by manipulating their beliefs, the way they think and the way they feel about themselves, different ideas of different individuals or different circumstances. What really sets Buddha apart is he taught the opposite. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the Anapanasati Sutta, and the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, Buddha made it really clear that it's important to be aware of what we're experiencing physically, intellectually, cognitively, the whole enchilada. Be completely aware of what we're experiencing and bring that into the path. Bring that into the path of awareness and letting go, into the path of compassion and letting go. A third meaning of this image is actually quite literal. And this is where those liberals come in. It's a man and a woman, both appearing or depicted as deeply spiritual, but really, performing a very carnal activity. They're getting it on. They are making love. And there's some depictions where their foreheads are touching or their lips are touching. And there's some rather impassioned versions. This is pretty mellow and sedate. So, as a liberal, as a practitioner of Tibetan Tantra, not just white path but red path, not just metaphoric but literal Tantra, I can tell you that it's been said by some there are three Mahamudras or unions: the union of awareness and letting go, the union of compassion and letting go, or love and letting go, and the union of bliss and letting go. And there are many ways we can generate bliss. We can generate bliss in a very asexual, G-rated way, or, like our friends, we can find a spiritual way to get it on. Now, as any teenager in the throes of puberty can tell you, there are many pleasurable things. Gazing upon your lover is pleasurable. Smiling at your pleasure, at your lover coyly is pleasurable. Smiling at having your lover return the smile in a very wanton way is pleasurable. Caressing each other is pleasurable. Kissing each other is pleasurable. And to use the metaphor, embracing or engaging in sexual congress, if done properly, is very, very pleasurable. What sets tantric sex apart from conventional sex? Well, there's many types of tantra. There's Taoist tantra, there's Hindu tantra, there's Sikh tantra, there's Buddhist tantra. So from a Buddhist point of view, conventional sex is basically either by procreation or getting off, or getting your partner off, or getting both of you off. And there's nothing wrong with it. But Buddhism and Hindu and Taoist tantra, you take the sexual essence and you circulate it and you move it and you try to evolve by moving your sexual essence. In many Hindu schools of sexual tantra, they teach that what you want to do is take your sexual energy and instead of ejaculating it, you want to shoot it up your central channel, out your crown, or to your crown, and that'll make you enlightened. And that's great. But this, from a Buddhist point of view, it's very, very simple. We want to make love or enjoy sexual pleasure in such a way as to help us notice the physical bliss and or the emotional bliss. Multiply the intensity of that bliss and prolong the act. Imagine, if you will, we are sitting upon the edge of a pond, a calm, serene pond. We toss in, we lob in a stone, and it generates concentric waves that emanate outward. Likewise, we feel bliss in waves that pass through us. It's impossible to successfully hold on to the sensation. The only way to really experience is to be aware of it, be completely vulnerable, and let go of it. Don't push it away. Just let it pass through us. Don't worry, it will be replaced by another wave that passes through us, and then another wave, and then another wave. That can reinforce Buddha's two pillars of the wisdom training. The interdependence. Obviously, the bliss we feel physically is dependent upon the sight of our lover, the sound of our lover, the scent of our lover, the taste of our lover, the sensation of our lover, and all that kind of good stuff, and our thoughts and feelings about them, and vice versa. What a wonderful study in interdependence. The second pillar in Buddha's wisdom, in the Buddha's wisdom teachings, is impermanence. No one makes love forever. You make love for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 60 minutes, 75 minutes, 90 minutes. But as you approach 120 minutes, the possibility of chafing becomes a distinct reality. The possibility of exhaustion and dehydration becomes a reality. So nothing lasts forever. You can't do everything, anything, forever. We need breaks. But on a smaller scale, every wave of bliss that courses through our body, passes through our body, and feels like it disappears is a microcosm of impermanence and change. And those waves of pleasure, although delightful, cannot be grasped because of their impermanence, because of their fleeting evanescent nature, which is very, very cool. So when it comes to the Mahamudra of bliss and emptiness, we can notice the sensation that we experience. On our in-breath, we can mentally ask ourselves, what feeling? On the out-breath, we can mentally recite or intend relaxing. On the in-breath, we notice the pleasure. On the out-breath, we let go of it. We don't shove it away. We just let go of it. So whether it's the pleasure of giving a sexual favor, the pleasure of receiving a sexual favor, or the pleasure of engaging in some form of sex, some form of coitus, wherever the pleasure, we feel the pleasure, whichever part of the body feels the pleasure, we notice that and bring that into the path of bliss and letting go. What feeling? Relaxing. What if the pleasure comes from seeing our lover, writhe in agony or glow with adoration? What's seeing? Relaxing. What's seeing? Relaxing. What if the sound of our lover's mouth music, his or her moans of delight, give us pleasure? Then we do a similar meditation. What hearing? Relaxing. What hearing? Relaxing. Now, I typically caution folk that if you can't meditate with your clothes on, then you probably can't meditate with your clothes on whilst receiving your favorite sexual pleasure. Not going to work. So, but the thing is, it takes a very short time to get a rudimentary master meditation if you have the right instructor. Now, many men experience premature ejaculation. And let's face it, ladies, once the man has ejaculated, the party is pretty much over. Now, he might be a gentleman and continue to pleasure you with his hands or his mouth, but it won't be as pleasurable for him. And so there's a whole system of techniques designed to prolong the pleasure. We can take our awareness at a certain time as we feel ourselves drawing too close to the point of no return. We can take our sensations, draw them up our central channel, all the way to the crown of our head, meditate for a while until our body calms down, and then bring the sensations back out our central channel, back to, in the case of men, back to the tip of the penis, or just back maybe a thumb's width from the tip of the penis, and continue with coitus. So let's explore some really interesting things for a minute. I'm not sure what you, dear listener, what your knowledge of biology is. I'm not sure whether you're a sexist or misogynist or completely liberated in your view of sexuality. My understanding is that in fetal development, when we are a zygote, when we are an embryo, when we are a fetus, we are all girls. Until most of the time, when those who were genetically designed to be boys, when the time is right, testosterone is released, and a metamorphosis occurs within the little girl fetus. Labia majora seal. The ovaries descend and become testes. The clitoris elongates and enlarges, becomes the penis. The G-spot shifts over and becomes the prostate. So whether we know it or not, whether we believe it or not, whether we feel it or not, men and women are more similar than a lot of us would like to admit. And just as many women enjoy clitoral orgasm, many men enjoy phallic orgasm. Just as many women enjoy receiving a G-spot stimulation through a vaginal coitus or insertion, many men enjoy prostate stimulation either through external stimulation or internal stimulation. Now, does that mean all men are gay? Most likely not. Does that mean all men are straight? Most likely not. Does that mean all men are bi? Well, potentially, but there's no hard and fast rule. The potential exists for everyone to be straight, gay, or bi. And it's neither good, bad, or indifferent. It simply is. So, as we evolve, as we leave our teens and enter our 20s, and then our 30s, and then our 40s, and then our 50s, and then our 60s, and then our 70s, hopefully as we evolve both intellectually and emotionally and spiritually, we can separate ourselves from the prison of labels and stop asking ourselves, if I like this, does this make me that? If I like that, does that make me this? Let's just be honest with what we like and what we enjoy, what we're curious about, what we want in the moment, what we don't want in the moment. The more honest we are with ourselves, the more honest we are with our partner, the more pleasure we'll receive, the more pleasure our partner will receive, the more closer and intimate we'll become. So I talked about two other Mahamudras. So we talked about the Mahamudra of bliss and awareness, and those are pretty much intertwined in this case. You know, the awareness of a partner, the awareness of ourself, the awareness of a pleasure. We talked about the three loci or focuses of the awareness/pleasure meditation: what feeling, relaxing; what hearing, relaxing; what seeing, relaxing. And by the way, if we're enthralled with the physical sensations and the man feels he's coming too close to the edge, the point of no return, he does not want to end his lovemaking session yet. In addition to moving the sensory or the subtle drops up his central channels up to the crown, he can also go from a kinesthetic awareness to a visual awareness. So simply shifting from what feeling relaxing to what seeing relaxing can put the brakes on before it's too late. Now, let's talk about something that's really fun. That's the union of love and letting go. So compassion is about taking away suffering. Love is about giving blessings. And clearly, pleasure is a blessing. So as you're making love, as you're giving a sexual favor or receiving a sexual favor or enjoying sexual congress, we can feel the pleasure and wish that everyone experienced bliss. For instance, we can imagine that an individual that we know who's maybe having a dry spell sexually. For instance, we can meditate bliss for him, relaxing, maybe 3 times. And then we can think about all our neighbors and how we want all our neighbors to experience bliss and happiness. So bliss for these, relaxing. And then think about all the earthlings, whether they have 2 legs or 4 legs, whether they fly or swim or slither or crawl. Everyone wants to be happy. Everyone wants pleasure. And so as we experience the pleasure of the action union or the karma mudra or the tantric sex, we can meditate on bliss for all, relaxing. And we can imagine a universe and all its denizens, all the denizens of this and every other universe, also being inundated with productive, useful bliss. Bliss for each, relaxing. And so what we do is we take the momentum of savoring our own physical, emotional bliss, and we parlay that into universal love. That is very, very powerful. Now this might seem really, really difficult. How do you juggle all these things? Well, my friends, after the first quarter, what's a quarter of a year? Well, that'd be a full year is 52 weeks, so half of that would be 27, and half of that would be, let's say, 12 weeks, 12 to 13 weeks meditating every morning and every evening. You're going to be really good at this stuff, especially if you learn the techniques I teach you. After 13 weeks, you're going to be really good at this stuff, and applying this stuff sexually will be spontaneous. Now, as a fundamentalist would say, listen, man, if you're engaging in tantric union and you ejaculate, you're going to go to Buddhist hell. But I'm not a fundamentalist. I was a fundamentalist many years ago when I did engage in tantric sex. There was a lot of pressure. You know, after making love with my wife, I would have to, cuddling with her. Well, even while cuddling, I'd be mentally reciting the 100-syllable purification mantra of Vajrasattva, just to make sure I hadn't made a mistake. That's how I'm immersed in fear and rigidity and tightness that I was as a fundamentalist. And that's a very common experience. Many years have elapsed since then. I've made the journey from fundamentalist to liberal, and I'm much more relaxed now. And so in my experience, the key to great tantric sex is be loving, be vulnerable, be spontaneous, be honest, be playful, and bring whatever you experience into the path. Whether it's the path of bliss and letting go, the path of compassion and letting go, the path of love and letting go, the path of awareness and letting go. Rather than contriving experiences and making it happen, be aware of what's going on and let it happen. And just find a way to put the spiritual spin on it. So there you have it. A way of looking at Karma Mudra, specifically Samatha Bandhari, both the fundamentalist and the liberal point of views, both the metaphoric and the literal point of view. On the path that I teach, we explore both the metaphoric and the literal lessons taught in this symbolism. Now don't worry, no one has sex during class. It's kept purely theoretical. We all keep our trousers on, except for me, I'm wearing a skirt. So there you have it. In some schools of tantric Buddhism, sexuality is accepted as part of who we are. It's been said that if a Theravadan happened upon a vial of poison, he'd turn around and walk the other way. Whereas if a Mahayana happened upon a vial of poison, he'd label it poison, do not drink, and then just in case someone was stupid enough to drink it, they would leave a bottle of the antidote nearby. However, it's said if a tantrika finds poison, they transform it into bliss-inducing nectar of the gods and promptly guzzle it. So, there are sects of tantric Buddhism where they teach, yes, even a monk can practice sexual tantra. And if done properly, it can be a delightful, powerful, useful tool. But regardless of how good one's sex is, if you're in a relationship that isn't compatible, that isn't making you thrive, is helping you be the person you were born to be, even if the sex is great, you gotta move on. You gotta evolve the relationship or move on. We can't compromise our integrity. In my life, I have had many tantric partners. In Tibet, that's called a khandra. And at the moment, I'm between partners right now. And that is a wonderful experience. You see, in Sutric Buddhism, we take refuge in the three jewels, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha. We'll go into that in greater detail in a later class. In Tantra, we also take refuge in the three roots, the Lama, the Adam, and the Khandra. Once again, we'll go into that in greater detail in a later class. But what does it mean to take refuge in one's tantric partner? What it means is this: when things are good and it's blissful, bring the bliss into the path of love and letting go. When things are hard and it's painful, then bring that pain into the path of compassion and letting go. So use whatever your relationship gives you and bring it into the path. Few things can cut through the facade of our self-image, of our self-identity, like a relationship. Opening our body, opening our heart to another makes us exceedingly vulnerable to their strengths and to their weaknesses, to their goodness and to their foibles. So when we're in an intimate relationship with someone, male or female, straight or gay, we're incredibly vulnerable to them. So back to the idea of naked awareness. Rather than hiding from vulnerability, in Tantra we embrace it, and pursue it, and use it. Well, I've probably given you more than you expected. If you have questions, don't be shy, jot them down in the comment section below. If you'd like to give me a psychic hug, you can do that as well. Let's say I would be remiss if I didn't let everyone know that the next series of meditation classes, the Wednesday series of meditation classes, begins April 2nd. You can register by using the lamajigme.com link below. Quick note about that. Some people give me $35 a class through PayPal. Some give me more, some give me less, some give me nothing. I'm not going to lie to you. Money's nice. It helps pay the rent and keep me fed. But I'll never turn someone away if they're poor. If someone has a good heart and they really want to learn this, they're welcome. But the opposite's true. Someone is very generous with money, but they have a bad heart and they're disruptive to class and they're inhibiting other students and they don't really want to learn this, and they don't get to attend, regardless of how deep their pockets are. So number one, just if you wish to attend, that's great. If you can afford to give, marvelous. If you can't afford to give, no problem. You're still welcome. If you want to attend and you can't afford to give, then just contact me via email using the contact tab on my website and make arrangements. Ask to be a gratis student. My only request is that you don't take advantage of me. If you can give, please give. Not only will you be supporting me, but you're supporting those who I support as well. But enough of that. May you and yours be healthy and happy. Omara Patsanadi. Bye-bye now. Where is the off button?